Welcome to the end of the Third Reich tour. I'm here in Berlin and I'm right next to the Reichstag building. Why are we here? Well, this was the very spot where the Soviets were going to end the war. This was their goal, to put their Soviet hammer and sickle flag right above this building here. And once the flag was put in place, that meant the Third Reich is gone. So today what I'm gonna do is we're gonna walk around together and we're gonna see sites that are very important with the very end of the Third Reich. So follow me and we'll have a good time. When the Red Army planted the flag on top of the Reichstag, it symbolized the end of the most infamous and hated regime of all time. Several sites in Berlin are associated with the end of Hitler's government, and today we'll see what history they still have to offer us. Before I take you to a few of the locations, we'll look back to the zenith of Hitler's power in order to grasp just how devastating the war was, and how the places have changed since 1945. So, do you remember the scene I showed you with Hitler arriving at the train station? Well, I'm at the exact spot now. It's a soccer field. There's basically nothing left. In fact, the only thing of that grand entrance you saw is this. It goes to show you how devastating World War II was for German cities. That's the only thing left of the train station. It really goes to show you how this really was the end of the Third Reich. Germany was basically destroyed, and the German people today don't blame the Allies for it, they blame Hitler and the Nazis. That's all that's left. So if you follow me, we'll continue on our journey and I'll show you other sites. Let's go. So we leave the remains of the Anhalt train station to our next stop, the Wilhelmestrassa. The street right next to me, this is the Vilhelmestrassa. This was the most important street in Nazi Germany. It's where all the major government office buildings were. Hermann Goring's buildings was here, Joseph Goebbels' offices, Heinrich Himmler, and of course Adolf Hitler in his Chancellery building. Most of the buildings are gone today. There's only a few reminders of how important the Wilhelmstrasse was. And these are the signs located throughout the street explaining to the people exactly what was here 70 years ago during the Third Reich. It's all that remains of the most important street in Nazi Germany. Today, the Wilhelmstrasse is lined with stores and even the British Embassy. But during the Third Reich, it was the avenue of power in Nazi Germany. Here's another view in the Wilhelmstrasse. This building right here was the office of Rudolf Hess. Rudolf Hess, the Deputy Führer, until 1941. And then after Hess's departure to England, a guy called Martin Bormann held this office. It's one of the few remaining buildings from the Third Reich that's still around today. And we still continue down the road. And this office on the Wilhelmstrasse was the former aviation ministry. This was Hermann Goring's main office. The building still survives completely intact today. It's because the Americans chose not to bomb this building in World War II. So it's a very large building that's still here today in the Wilhelmstrasse. And on this spot on the Wilhelmstrasse is a park with nothing built on it. And that should definitely be a symbol for us. Why was anything built here? That's because on this spot was the publishing house of Joseph Goebbels' anti-Semitic newspaper, Der Angriff, which means the attack. And it was on this site right here. And it was so full of hate and so full of anti-Semitism, the Germans decided they're not going to build anything on this site whatsoever. They're just going to make it a park and leave it as a nice, peaceful area for what once was a hate-filled area instead. The most important structure on the Wilhelmstrasse
was the Chancellery. It was built in 1878 for Otto von Bismarck, and it contained Hitler's office and his private apartments. In 1939, a new chancellery was built next to the old one, which Hitler felt was more in line with his vision of Germany's power. There was a court of honor where guests would enter, a diplomat's hall twice the size of the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, and Hitler's new office that was over 1,300 square feet and made of marble. In addition, the new chancellery had a balcony, which Hitler would use to greet the crowds during his triumphs early in the war.
We're now at a very, very important stop on the Wilhelmestrasse. This was the site of the old and new Reich Chancellery buildings. This was the site of Hitler's offices. It was all torn down after World War II to erase any memory of it. But this is the exact spot of the offices and the Fuhrer bunker, which we'll go to. If you look right here in this map right here, and I'll try to point out to you, basically right there was the entrance to the Court of Honor of the new Reich Chancellery. If you move over to this little division right there, that was my best estimate of where the balcony used to be in the New Reich Chancellery building, where he and Hermann Goring would come to celebrate all the big victories in front of crowds. And the old Reich Chancellery building yard was basically right through this street right there. So there's still a lot more to see, so follow me. Just to give you a little inkling of how huge a place this was, I'm standing right in the middle of what was once the Chancellor Gardens. And as you can see, the gardens extended all the way down to Ebertstrasse right there, which during World War II was not called Ebertstrasse. Ebert was the first president of the Weimar Republic. The Nazis are not going to have that. So they renamed the street Hermann Goring Strasse instead. So it extended all the way down to the street. It's a huge area.
The new Chancellery building was the only structure completed in Hitler's master plan to turn Berlin into a world capital called Germania. Every aspect of the structure and its surroundings was made to give people the impression that Hitler was the ruler of the world.
I'm at a very, very important spot where the new Reich Chancellery building used to be. This was where the main entrance was. The huge Nazi eagle, the swastika, was right overhead. There were 2 SS guards of honor standing right here at this very spot. This was the big entrance to the place. As you can see today, it has all been leveled. There's no signs of it. This is all just regular apartment buildings to basically erase all trace of the new Reich Chancellery building, but we're at the exact spot where the entrance was. Today it's a road.
And of course, the Chancellery also held the site which has become synonymous with the end of the Third Reich.
A very uninteresting place, isn't it? All it is a parking lot, some apartment buildings, looks nothing special. Well, 70 years ago, this place was very special. I am standing on the exact spot of the Fuhrer bunker. This is where Hitler, 20 feet under my feet right here, committed suicide with Eva Braun back in 1945. This was the exact spot where everything happened. In back of me would have been the old Reichschancellery. To my left over here would have been the new Reichschancellor building. If you look over to our left, the only thing that reminds people that what was once here, that this was the center of the power of Nazi Germany, is a simple sign right there. It's the only thing left that explains to people exactly what was here. The road that you see right here, none of this existed. We're standing in what once used to be the old Chancellery Gardens, where Hitler would take personal walks with his aides and his friends. Nothing existed here. The Germans today, they wanted to make sure that absolutely nothing remained of Nazism, and so they completely obliterated the area and made it into something that's not really special. So this is what it looks like today. I'll take you over to the sign, come on. Okay, here it is, guys. This sign right here. It wasn't even put up by the Germans. It was actually put up by a private organization to let everyone know what it was like here. As you can see, there's a map that explains the precise location of all the buildings. And it then gives you a big picture of the Führer bunker and all the rooms. But this is it. There's a picture of him, Hitler himself. And that's it. The only thing to remind people what was once here.
The Chancellery was knocked down after the war, but that doesn't mean it's totally vanished.
Now, if you know where to go in Berlin, you can actually find pieces of Hitler's Chancellery building still around. We're here at this spot. I'll tell you its significance and, of course, its relation to the end of the Third Reich. After the war ended, the Soviets built this memorial here in 1945. And of course, the concrete slabs they used were directly from the Reich Chancellery building just a few blocks away. So this is actually pieces of Hitler's Chancellery building that's now a Soviet war memorial here in Berlin. I'm here at the Mohenstrasse subway station in Berlin. You might be asking, why are we here in this place at the end of a Third Reich tour, right? Because it's so important. See all the red marble they used for the subway station? That's the same red marble from the new Reich Chancellery building, basically from Hitler's apartments in his study in his office. They basically just transplanted all the marble and built a subway station right there. So you're actually looking at the walls of the new Reich Chancellery building. Amazing. Well, that concludes our End of the Third Reich tour. I hope you saw a lot, you learned a lot, and became associated with the places in Berlin that are connected with the end of the Third Reich. Hope you had a wonderful time, and of course, I'll see you on our next in-class field trip. Take care.